The fluorescent lights of the convenience store buzzed overhead like angry wasps, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made my reflection in the glass door look even more ghostly than I felt. My fingers trembled as I counted the crumpled bills in my palm. $3.47. Not enough for the prenatal vitamins the free clinic had insisted I needed. Not enough for much of anything, really. I pressed my hand against my lower abdomen, feeling the slight swell there beneath my oversized sweater. 4 months along, and I still couldn't quite believe it. The baby had been conceived in what I thought was a reconciliation, one last desperate attempt to save a marriage that had been dying for years. Instead, it had been a farewell I hadn't known I was saying. The divorce papers had arrived 2 weeks later. The night air hit me like a slap when I pushed through the door, October wind cutting through my thin jacket. I'd sold the good one, the cashmere coat Dante had bought me for our 2nd anniversary, to pay for last month's rent. Everything from that life was gone now. The penthouse overlooking the city, the car with heated seats, the clothes that cost more than most people's mortgage payments. I didn't miss those things. I missed feeling safe. My footsteps echoed on the cracked sidewalk as I made my way toward the bus stop, passing darkened storefronts with iron grates pulled down like closed eyelids. This neighborhood wasn't dangerous exactly, but it wasn't safe either. It existed in that gray space where people minded their own business, because getting involved meant trouble you couldn't afford. The bus stop was empty, except for an elderly woman clutching her purse. She looked at me with that particular expression I'd grown accustomed to, pity mixed with relief that she wasn't me. Young, pregnant, obviously alone. I was a cautionary tale in human form. I sat on the cold plastic bench and pulled out my phone. The screen cracked in a spiderweb pattern from when I'd dropped it last week. No messages. Not that I expected any. My former friends, Dante's friends really, had evaporated the moment the divorce was finalized. Turned out charity galas and wine tastings didn't leave much room for the ex-wife living in a studio apartment above a laundromat. The dizziness hit without warning. One moment I was watching a stray cat pick through an overturned garbage can. The next, the world tilted sideways. The streetlights smeared into long streaks of gold and white. My hands gripped the edge of the bench, knuckles white, as my vision tunneled. Not now. Please, not now. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, half a bagel I'd found in the break room at the diner where I waitressed. My manager had cut my hours after I'd had to sit down during a shift, dizzy and nauseous. Can't have pregnant girls fainting on customers, he'd said, like my condition was a choice I'd made to inconvenience him. The baby needed food, needed those vitamins I couldn't afford, needed a mother who wasn't failing at the most basic requirement of keeping them both alive. I tried to stand, thinking maybe I could make it to the 24-hour clinic 4 blocks away. But my legs buckled, and suddenly I was on my knees on the dirty concrete, my palms scraping against loose gravel. The elderly woman made a sound. Alarm or disgust, I couldn't tell. But she didn't move to help me. In this neighborhood, you learned not to touch people, not to get involved. Darkness crept in from the edges of my vision like spilled ink. I heard the bus approaching, its brakes squealing, but the sound seemed to come from very far away. My cheek pressed against the cold ground, and I thought absurdly about the baby, about whether they would remember this moment somehow. This feeling of their mother giving up. I hadn't given up. I'd just run out of options. The last thing I heard before everything went black was the screech of tires. Not the bus, something else, and the slam of a car door, footsteps, quick and purposeful. Then a voice, low and sharp with command, speaking rapidly in Italian. A voice I knew better than my own heartbeat, despite everything. A voice that shouldn't be here, in this neighborhood. At this hour, a voice that had said I want a divorce with such cold finality that I'd signed the papers without reading them. Strong hands lifted me, and I caught a scent that made my chest ache. Expensive cologne mixed with cigarette smoke and something uniquely him. Cedar and danger, the smell of the man I'd loved and lost. Cristo, he breathed. And even through the fog consuming my consciousness, I heard something in his tone I'd never heard before. Not in 3 years of marriage, not in the 6 months of our courtship. How long? How long has she been like this? Another voice, younger, anxious. Boss, we should get her to... I know where to take her. Move. I wanted to protest, to push away, to demand what he was doing here, how he'd found me. But my body had betrayed me, shutting down system by system. I felt myself being lifted into a car. Not just any car, but one with leather seats that smelled new, and a suspension so smooth that even in my semi-conscious state, I registered the difference from the rattling bus I'd been waiting for. The door closed with a solid, expensive thunk. An engine purred to life, not the growl of the Maserati he used to drive, but something quieter, more refined. German, probably. Through my fluttering eyelids, I caught glimpses. The back of a driver's head, broad shoulders and a dark suit, Dante beside me, his hand. Warm, calloused, bearing a scar across the knuckles from a fight he'd never explained, resting on my forehead. "Stay with me, Tesoro," he murmured, and I must have been hallucinating because he hadn't called me that. Treasure, since before everything fell apart. Stay with me. I tried to tell him I wasn't his treasure anymore, that I was nothing to him, just a signature on divorce papers, and a mistake he'd corrected. But the words wouldn't come, and the darkness was so welcoming, so much easier than the constant struggle of the past 3 months, so I let go. Consciousness returned in fragments, like a puzzle assembling itself piece by piece. White ceiling, not water-stained like the one in my apartment. Soft sheets against my skin, Egyptian cotton, high thread count. The steady beep of a monitor, and voices. Low and tense, coming from somewhere to my left. "The fuck did you not tell me?" Dante's voice, but different from how I remembered it. Raw, almost desperate. "You said no contact, boss. You were very clear. She's pregnant, Marco. 4 months, the doctor said. That changes everything. With respect, you were the one who wanted the divorce. You said..." "I know what I said." A pause, heavy with things unsaid. "I thought I was protecting her, from my life, from what I do, from..." He didn't finish, but he didn't need to. I knew what he was, what he'd always been, even if he'd tried to keep that world separate from our marriage. Dante Caruso wasn't just a businessman with legitimate restaurants and real estate holdings. He was the youngest Don in the city's history, a man who controlled everything from the docks to the Diamond District, who commanded respect through fear and loyalty in equal measure. I'd known it when I married him. I'd thought love would be enough. It hadn't been. Not for him. "The baby," another voice interjected. Older, rougher. "Sal, Dante's consigliere. Is it yours?" The silence that followed was so profound I could hear my own heartbeat in the monitor's rhythm. "Yes." Dante's voice was flat, certain. "The timeline matches. There was one night, about 4 months ago, before the papers were finalized. I remembered that night, the last time he'd touched me, kissed me like he meant it. I'd thought maybe we had a chance, that the distance between us could be bridged. Instead, he'd left before dawn, and the divorce papers had arrived that afternoon by courier. "Then you have a problem, boss," Sal said slowly. "Because if this gets out, if the other families know you have a pregnant ex-wife living in a slum, vulnerable, unprotected..." "I know." The words were bitten off, sharp as broken glass. "They'll use her. Use the baby. Leverage against you." "I know." I heard footsteps, pacing, then the scrape of a chair being pulled across the floor, closer to my bed. "She looks like she hasn't eaten in days," Dante said quietly. "The doctor said she's malnourished, anemic, working herself to exhaustion." A pause. "This is my fault. You did what you thought was right," Sal offered, but there was doubt in his tone. "I did what was safe, for her. I thought if she was away from me, from this life, she could be normal, happy. Find someone who could give her the life she deserved." A bitter laugh. "Instead, I left her to starve in the dark," my chest tightened, tears burning behind my closed eyelids. He'd left me because he thought he was protecting me. The realization was a knife between my ribs, sharp and twisting. "What are you going to do?" Marco asked. Another long silence. Then, "What I should have done from the beginning, protect what's mine." She's not yours anymore, boss. The divorce is just paper. Dante's voice dropped to something dangerous, something that made the hair on my arm stand up even in my unconscious state. She's carrying my child. That makes her mine, and anyone who thinks otherwise will learn exactly what happens when you threaten a Caruso. I should have been angry. Should have been furious at the possessive claim, the assumption that I belonged to him like property. But beneath the monitor's steady beep, my heart raced with something that felt dangerously close to hope. "Get me Romano," Dante ordered. "Tell him to bring the prenup files. I need to know exactly what I signed away. And then I fix this. All of it." Footsteps receded. A door opened and closed. Then there was just silence and the sound of breathing. Mine shallow and monitored, his deep and controlled. I felt his hand close over mine, warm and careful, like I was something fragile that might shatter. "I'm sorry, Tesoro," he whispered, so low I almost didn't hear it. "I thought I was setting you free. I didn't know I was leaving you in a cage." My fingers twitched involuntarily, and his hand tightened. "Dio, you're awake. Don't try to move," the doctor said. I forced my eyes open, squinting against the soft lamplight. The room came into focus slowly. Cream-colored walls, expensive art, a window showing the city skyline lit up like scattered diamonds. Not a hospital. Somewhere private. And beside my bed, Dante. He looked like he'd aged years in the 3 months since I'd last seen him. His black hair was disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. His jaw was shadowed with stubble. His white shirt was wrinkled, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. But it was his eyes that caught me. Those dark eyes that had once looked at me with such controlled distance, now burning with something fierce and unguarded. Sophia. My name was a prayer, a curse, a confession all at once. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry. He immediately reached for a cup of water on the bedside table, helping me sit up with an arm behind my back, supporting me like I weighed nothing. The water was cool and perfect. I drank half the cup before I could manage words. "How did you find me?" My voice came out raspy, broken. His jaw tightened. "I've had someone watching you since the divorce was finalized." Anger sparked through the exhaustion. "You've been watching me?" "Protecting you," he corrected. "From a distance. Making sure you were safe." "Safe?" I almost laughed, but it came out as a bitter sound. "I've been living in a studio apartment with water damage and cockroaches. I've been working double shifts for minimum wage. I've been choosing between food and prenatal vitamins. That's your idea of safe?" Something cracked in his expression. "I didn't know. He was supposed to just make sure no one bothered you, that you weren't in danger. He never told me." He stopped, and I saw his hands curl into fists. "He'll be dealt with." The casual way he said it, the promise of violence underlying those words, sent a chill down my spine. This was the Dante I'd tried to forget. The one who solved problems with methods that didn't involve lawyers or negotiations. "Don't," I said, though I wasn't sure why I was protecting someone I didn't even know. "Just don't." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "As you wish. But he's off the detail. There is no detail. There's no anything. We're divorced, Dante. You made that very clear. I was wrong. The simple statement hung in the air between us." "You don't get to do this," I said, feeling tears burn hot behind my eyes. "You don't get to leave me, cut me off completely, and then swoop in when it's convenient." "Convenient?" He leaned forward, his face inches from mine, and I could smell the coffee on his breath, see the bloodshot exhaustion in his eyes. "You think finding my ex-wife unconscious on a street corner, pregnant and starving, is convenient? You think discovering I have a child I knew nothing about is convenient?" "I was going to tell you," I whispered. "I tried. I called your office 12 times. I sent emails. I even went to the restaurant, but your security—" "What?" The word was sharp as a gunshot. "They said you'd left instructions. No contact. That if I kept trying, you'd get a restraining order. His face went white, then red. He stood abruptly, turning away, and I saw his shoulders rise and fall with barely controlled breathing. Who? The single word was laced with violence. Who told you that? Does it matter? Who? I don't remember his name. Big guy, scar across his cheek. Cristo. Dante pulled out his phone, thumbs moving rapidly across the screen. Marco, find Tommaso. Bring him to the warehouse. No, I don't care where he is. Find him. He ended the call and turned back to me, his expression carefully controlled again. He exceeded his authority, significantly. I pulled the hospital blanket, because that's what it was, I realized. Hospital grade with monitoring equipment nearby. Higher around my shoulders. Why does it matter now? The divorce is final. I signed everything. I don't want your money, Dante. I never did. The divorce, he said slowly, moving back to the chair beside my bed, was the biggest mistake of my life. And the prenup you signed was written when I was trying to protect my assets, not when I was trying to protect my family. We're not your family anymore. You're carrying my child. That makes you my family, always. The possessiveness in his tone should have made me angry. Instead, it made something deep in my chest ache with longing for what we'd lost. You can't just decide that, I said weakly. Watch me. And in his eyes, I saw the absolute certainty of a man who'd built an empire through will and ruthlessness, who'd never learned to accept defeat. I was too tired to fight. Too tired to push away the warmth of his hand when he took mine again. Too tired to pretend I didn't want exactly what he was offering: protection, safety, a way out of the nightmare my life had become. But I also remembered the loneliness of our marriage, the nights he didn't come home, the smell of gunpowder mixed with his cologne. The carefully blank expression he wore when he thought I wasn't looking, like he was carrying the weight of terrible things. I can't do this again, I whispered. I can't be the wife who doesn't ask questions, who pretends not to notice the blood on your shirts or the bodies in the news. I can't raise a child in that world, Dante. I won't. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. Then we'll find a new way, together. But I'm not walking away again, Sophia. I can't. Not from you, and not from our child. Before I could respond, the door opened and a man in a white coat entered, followed by Marco carrying a tablet. Mrs. Caruso, the doctor said, then caught himself. Apologies. Ms. Bennett, how are you feeling? The correction stung more than it should have. Like I was hit by a truck, I admitted. You were severely dehydrated and malnourished. The baby is stable for now, but we need to monitor you both closely over the next 48 hours. I'm recommending bed rest and a carefully managed nutrition plan. Dante stood. She'll have whatever she needs. Spare no expense. The doctor nodded as if this was expected. I'll prepare the discharge paperwork for transfer to your residence. No, I interrupted. I'm not going home with him. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. Sophia, Dante began. No. I'm not playing house in your penthouse and pretending everything is fine. I'm not... A wave of dizziness cut off my words. Dante was beside me instantly, his hand on my back, steadying me. You're not going back to that apartment, he said firmly. Not negotiable. The doctor said bed rest. You can barely sit up without nearly passing out. Then I'll find somewhere else. Where? The question was gentle but relentless. You have $3 in your wallet. No savings, no family in the city. Where exactly are you going to go that's safe for you and our baby? I hated that he was right. Hated the trap of circumstance that left me no choice but to depend on the man who'd walked away from our marriage without a backward glance. This doesn't mean we're back together, I said, hearing the weakness in my own voice. It means you're safe. Everything else. He paused. Everything else we'll figure out. The doctor cleared his throat. I'll give you two some time to discuss logistics. But Ms. Bennett does need rest, and soon. He left, Marco trailing after him with an apologetic glance in my direction. Silence settled over the room like snow. I was trying to protect you, Dante said finally. From my enemies. From the life. From me. He sat back down, elbows on his knees, head bowed. My father used to say that men like us, men in the life, we don't get happy endings. We don't get white picket fences and normal families. Everything we touch turns to violence eventually. He looked up at me, and his eyes were haunted. I thought if I let you go, you could have the life you deserved, away from the blood and the bullets and the constant threat. You didn't give me a choice, I said. You just decided what was best for me and left. I know. And I was wrong, because all I did was leave you vulnerable to different threats, poverty, hunger, the danger of being alone and unprotected. His hands clenched. When Marco called tonight, when he said he'd found you unconscious, I've never been more terrified in my life. Not in all the years of war and violence. Nothing compared to that moment. I wanted to stay angry, wanted to hold on to the hurt of abandonment. But seeing him like this, raw and honest in a way he'd never been during our marriage, made it impossible. What do you want, Dante? I asked tiredly. He met my eyes. I want you safe. I want our baby healthy. He trailed off, then seemed to steel himself. I want a second chance, not as the man who tried to keep you separate from his world, but as the man who brings you into it fully. No more secrets. No more protection through distance. Real partnership. You're asking me to be a Mafia wife. Actually be one, not just pretend. I'm asking you to be my wife again. To let me protect you the right way, and yes, that means knowing the truth about what I do. About the family business. About the darkness I carry. He leaned forward. But it also means never being vulnerable like this again, never worrying about money or safety, or whether you can afford prenatal vitamins. It means a life of luxury, yes, but also constant protection, security, power. And violence, I added. Don't forget the violence. I've never lied to you about what I am, Sophia. I just tried to keep you from seeing it up close. His voice dropped. But you're right. There is violence. There will always be violence. And if you come back to me, if you let me back into your life, you'll be part of that world. You'll know things that will keep you up at night. You'll understand why I come home with blood on my hands. I should have said no. Should have refused. Should have chosen the uncertainty of freedom over the gilded cage of his protection. But I was so tired. And the baby was a weight in my belly that deserved better than a roach-infested studio and a mother who couldn't afford food. 48 hours, I said. I'll stay until the doctor clears me. Then we'll talk about what comes next. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or hope, but he just nodded. 48 hours. And Sophia? Yes? Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. As he stood and moved toward the door, probably to arrange my transfer to whatever secure location he had planned, I pressed my hand to my stomach and wondered if I was making the best decision of my life, or the worst. The baby fluttered, the first real movement I'd felt, and I took it as an answer, even if I wasn't sure what the question was. The penthouse was exactly as I remembered it, and that was somehow worse than if it had changed. I stood in the center of the living room, wrapped in one of Dante's shirts, and a pair of soft cotton pants the doctor had approved, and felt like a ghost haunting her own past. The floor-to-ceiling windows still offered the same breathtaking view of the city, a glittering sprawl of lights that made everything below seem small and inconsequential. The furniture was the same, sleek Italian leather, chrome and glass, everything expensive and carefully chosen. Even the art on the walls hadn't changed. Abstract pieces that cost more than most people earned in a year. What had changed was me. 3 months ago, I'd walked out of here with a single suitcase and what remained of my dignity. I'd left behind the designer clothes, the jewelry, everything that marked me as Dante Caruso's wife. I'd wanted nothing from him except my freedom. Now I was back, pregnant with his child, and freedom felt like a luxury I could no longer afford.
Your room is ready, Dante said from behind me, and I turned to find him standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets. He'd changed into fresh clothes, black slacks and a charcoal sweater that made his dark eyes even more intense. I had them prepare the guest suite. I thought you'd be more comfortable with your own space. The guest suite, not the master bedroom we'd shared. The consideration should have made me grateful, but instead, it highlighted the strangeness of our situation.
Not married, not divorced emotionally, not quite strangers, existing in some liminal space that had no name. "Thank you," I said, my voice sounding foreign in the familiar space. He moved into the room, maintaining a careful distance that felt deliberate. "The doctor will be here tomorrow morning to check on you. I've arranged for a nutritionist to develop meal plans, and there's a physical therapist on call if you need—" "Dante." I cut him off gently. "You don't have to manage me like a project." His jaw tightened. "I'm trying to take care of you." "I know, but I'm not one of your business acquisitions. You can't just throw money and resources at me and expect everything to be fixed." "Then tell me what you need." He took a step closer, frustration bleeding through his controlled exterior. "Tell me how to do this right, because I'm flying blind here, Sophia. I've negotiated treaties with other families. I've expanded the business into 6 new territories. I've survived 3 assassination attempts. But figuring out how to be what you need, I have no fucking idea where to start." The raw honesty in his voice cracked something in my chest. This was the Dante I'd fallen in love with. The one who existed beneath the cold dawn exterior. The man who was capable of vulnerability when he chose to show it. "I need honesty," I said quietly. "No more secrets. No more protection through ignorance. If I'm going to be here, if I'm going to raise a child in this world, I need to know what I'm dealing with." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay. What do you want to know?" "Everything. Start with why you really divorced me." He moved to the window, staring out at the city like it held answers. When he spoke, his voice was low and measured. 6 months before the divorce, there was a threat. Not against me, against you. One of the Russo family's enforcers got picked up by the feds, and he was looking to make a deal. Part of his information included detailed plans to kidnap you. Use you as leverage against me. Ice slid down my spine. I never knew. That was the point. I handled it, quietly, but it made me realize how exposed you were. How being my wife painted a target on your back. He turned to face me. Then the Irish syndicate started making noise about moving into our territory. They sent a message, a photo of you at the farmer's market buying flowers, just to show they could get close whenever they wanted. My hand instinctively went to my stomach. When was this? 2 weeks before I filed for divorce. His expression was carved from stone. I knew a war was coming, the kind where they don't play by the old rules, where they don't respect boundaries, and I knew that as long as you wore my ring, you were a weapon anyone could use against me. "So you threw me away to protect me." The bitterness in my voice surprised me. "I set you free," he corrected, "or I tried to. I gave you enough in the settlement to live comfortably, set up monthly payments." "What monthly payments?" I interrupted. "Dante, I never received anything. The settlement was a single payment of $50,000. I used it for the apartment deposit and living expenses. It ran out 6 weeks ago." His face went very still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. "What did you just say?" $50,000. It's what the lawyers said was in the prenup. A one-time settlement in case of divorce. The prenup I signed left you with $3 million in liquid assets and a monthly allowance of $20,000 for life. His voice was soft, deadly. "Someone's been stealing from you. From my child." He pulled out his phone, but I grabbed his wrist. "Wait. Just wait. Deal with it later. Right now, I need to understand. If you were trying to protect me, why didn't you just tell me? Why make me think you didn't want me anymore?" He set the phone down, and when he looked at me, his eyes were haunted. "Because if you knew the truth, you would have stayed. You would have insisted on standing by my side, facing the danger together. And I couldn't risk that. I couldn't risk you. That wasn't your choice to make, I know. I know that now." He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the faint scar above his left eyebrow from a fight when he was 16. But then, all I could think about was my mother. I knew the story. Everyone in the family did. Dante's mother had been killed when he was 12, caught in the crossfire of a hit meant for his father. It had shaped everything he became, every decision he made. I swore I would never let that happen to someone I loved, he continued. Never put someone in that position. So when the threats started coming, when I realized the war would make you a primary target, I made a choice. I chose your life over our marriage. And now? I asked. The threats are still there. The danger hasn't changed, so what's different? You're pregnant. You're vulnerable. You've already been hurt by my attempts to protect you from a distance. His hand came up, hovering near my face but not quite touching. And I realized that the only way to truly keep you safe is to bring you into the fortress, not leave you outside it. Alone, you're an easy target. Under my protection, surrounded by my security, you're untouchable. Like a possession, I said, but without heat. Like family. He finally made contact, his palm cupping my cheek with heartbreaking gentleness, like the most important thing in my world. And I protect what's mine, Sophia. With everything I have. I should have pulled away, should have maintained the distance that made sense given our situation, but I was exhausted and overwhelmed, and his touch felt like coming home after a long, terrible journey. I'm scared, I admitted in a whisper. Of me? Of this. Of wanting this. Of letting myself believe we could make it work this time when it fell apart so badly before. His thumb traced my cheekbone. We didn't fall apart. I blew us up to save you. There's a difference. And this time, he leaned forward until his forehead rested against mine. This time, I won't run. No matter what's coming, we face it together. That's my promise. The baby kicked, stronger this time, more insistent, and Dante's eyes widened as he felt it beneath his palm. Was that? Yeah. I placed my hand over his. That's your daughter. Or son. We don't know yet. Something transformed in his expression. A softening that made him look younger, almost vulnerable. Our baby, I confirmed. He sank to his knees in front of me, his hands gentle on my hips as he pressed his ear to my stomach. I stood frozen, my fingers unconsciously moving to his hair as he listened to the life we'd created together. I'm sorry, he murmured against my skin. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I'm sorry you went through this alone. I'm sorry for all of it. Tears burned my eyes. Dante, I'm going to fix this. Everything that went wrong, everyone who failed you, everyone who kept us apart, I'm going to fix all of it. He looked up at me, and his eyes were bright with unshed tears. And I'm going to be the father this baby deserves, the husband you deserved all along. I swear it. I believed him. God help me. I believed every word. The next morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of fresh coffee. For a moment, I forgot where I was, my hand reaching across the bed for a warmth that wasn't there. Then memory returned in a rush. The penthouse, Dante. The conversation that had left my emotions in tatters. I'd slept in the guest suite, as promised, in a bed so soft it felt like floating on clouds. Someone had unpacked my meager belongings, the few clothes I'd brought from my apartment, some toiletries, and arranged them in the walk-in closet that was bigger than my entire former living space. The bathroom was a study in marble and chrome, with a shower that had 6 different settings and a tub deep enough to swim in. I indulged in a long, hot shower, letting the water pressure work out knots in my shoulders I'd been carrying for months. When I emerged, wrapped in a plush robe I'd found hanging on the door, I discovered breakfast waiting in my room. Fresh fruit, whole grain toast, yogurt with granola, and a note in Dante's precise handwriting. Doctor arrives at 10 a.m. Nutritionist at noon. Rest as much as you need. I'm in the office if you require anything. D formal. Careful. Maintaining the boundaries I'd said I needed. I ate slowly, savoring each bite. Real strawberries, not the mushy ones from the discount grocery store. Toast from actual bakery bread. Orange juice that tasted like sunshine. Food I didn't have to steal from work or ration to make last the week. The guilt came with the pleasure. How many pregnant women were struggling the way I had been? How many didn't have a Mafia Don ready to swoop in and rescue them? I was finishing my coffee when there was a soft knock at the door. Come in, I called, expecting a maid or maybe Marco with some message from Dante. Instead, a woman entered. Mid-50s, elegant in a tailored navy suit, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a sophisticated bun. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, swept over me with the kind of thorough evaluation that made me suddenly conscious of my borrowed robe and shower-damp hair. "Ms. Bennett," she said in accented English, Italian, like Dante's when he was tired or angry. "I am Gabriella Caruso, Dante's aunt. We have not been formally introduced." I knew who she was. Gabriella Caruso, sister to Dante's late father, was one of the most powerful women in the organization. She controlled the family's legitimate business holdings and served as a bridge between the old world and the new. She'd been at our wedding, a silent presence in black who'd watched me with unreadable eyes. She'd also been conspicuously absent from the divorce proceedings. "Mrs. Caruso," I said, standing on unsteady legs. "I didn't know you were here. I arrived this morning. Dante called me last night with interesting news." She moved into the room with the kind of confidence that came from never being challenged. "You're pregnant. With his child. This complicates things considerably." "I'm aware," I said carefully. She studied me like I was a painting she was considering purchasing. "Are you? I wonder. Do you understand what it means to carry a Caruso heir? The responsibility? The danger?" "I'm learning." She moved to the window, looking out at the city. "When Dante divorced you, I told him he was a fool, that he was repeating his father's mistakes, trying to protect by pushing away instead of pulling close. But he is like all the Caruso men, stubborn, convinced they know best, unable to see that sometimes the greatest strength is in unity, not isolation." I wasn't sure how to respond to that, so I stayed silent. "Now you're back," she continued. "Pregnant, vulnerable, and whether you know it or not, you have become the most valuable piece on a very dangerous board. The other families will see you as weakness, as leverage, as an opportunity. Dante said he'd protect me." She turned, and her smile was sharp. "Oh, he will. He'll burn the city down before he lets anyone harm you or that child. But protection comes with a price, Ms. Bennett. It means guards following you everywhere. It means your friends being vetted. It means living in a gilded cage where even your freedom is controlled for your own safety. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to educate you. There's a difference." She moved closer, her gaze softening slightly. "I don't dislike you, child. In fact, I rather admired you during your marriage. You brought light to Dante's life, made him remember there was more to existence than violence and vendettas, but you were sheltered then, kept separate. If you come back to him now, truly come back, you must be strong. You must understand the rules." "What rules?" "Never show weakness outside these walls. Never trust anyone outside the family completely. Always assume you're being watched, and most importantly," she paused for effect, "never let them see that you're the chink in his armor. Because the moment they know how much you matter, you become the target of every enemy he's ever made." The weight of her words settled over me like a lead blanket. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because Dante won't. He'll try to shelter you even now, to keep the worst of it from touching you. But that's how people get killed, through ignorance, not malice." She reached out, unexpectedly taking my hand. "Your family now, whether the papers say so or not. That baby makes you family. And family survives by being smart, being strong, and being united." Before I could respond, another knock sounded. Dante entered without waiting for permission, his eyes immediately finding me and then moving to his aunt with an expression that mixed affection and wariness. "Zia Gabriella," he said. "I didn't know you'd arrived. I came to meet your child's mother properly. Something I should have done 3 years ago." She released my hand and moved toward the door. "We'll speak later, Dante. There are business matters that require your attention." "Later," he agreed, and I heard the dismissal in his tone, polite but firm. When she'd gone, he turned to me. "What did she say to you?" "The truth, apparently. More than you've been willing to tell me." His jaw tightened. "She has a tendency to be direct. She said I'd be a target, that the other families would use me against you." "They would try," he corrected, moving closer. But they won't succeed. My security is the best in the city. No one gets to you without going through an army first. That's what I mean, Dante. Do you hear yourself? I need an army just to exist in your world. The baby will need an army. That's not a life. That's a prison. It's protection. It's both. I sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted despite having just woken up, and I don't know if I'm strong enough for it. He knelt in front of me, taking my hands in his. You are. You're stronger than you know. You survived 3 months alone, working yourself to exhaustion, never giving up. That takes a strength most people don't have. That was desperation, not strength. There's no difference. Desperation is just strength under pressure. His thumbs trace circles on my palms. And you won't be alone this time. You'll have me, my resources, my family. Everything I am is yours to use, Sophia. All the power, all the protection, all the pieces on the board, they're yours. I don't want power. I want safety. For the baby. Then you'll have it. I swear on my father's grave, on everything I've built. No harm will come to our child or to you. The doctor arrived then, breaking the moment. Dr. E. Sarah Chen was young, competent, and clearly accustomed to dealing with Dante's world. She didn't flinch when 2 armed guards escorted her in, didn't question the extraordinary security measures. The examination was thorough: blood pressure, blood work, ultrasound. Dante stood beside me through all of it, his hand gripping mine when the monitor showed our baby's heartbeat, a strong, steady rhythm that filled the room. Everything looks good, Dr. Chen said, smiling. The baby is measuring right on track for 20 weeks. You're having a girl, by the way. Congratulations. A girl. I looked at Dante and saw something I'd never seen before, tears streaming unchecked down his face as he stared at the ultrasound image. A daughter, he whispered. We're having a daughter. Dr. Chen discreetly left us alone, closing the door behind her. Dante sank into the chair beside the bed, still holding the ultrasound photo like it was made of spun glass. My father always said daughters were the greatest blessing and the greatest curse, he said softly. A blessing because they show you what unconditional love really means. A curse because you spend every day terrified that the world will hurt them. She'll have you to protect her, I said. She'll have us. He looked up at me. Both of us. Together. Say you'll stay, Sophia. Not just for 48 hours. Say you'll let me do this right. I should have asked for more time. Should have thought it through carefully. Should have considered all the implications and consequences. But looking at that ultrasound image, at our daughter's tiny profile, I couldn't imagine walking away. Couldn't imagine raising her alone when her father was right here, offering everything he had. I'll stay, I heard myself say. For her. We'll try this your way. The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise after a long, dark night. Thank you, he said, and then he was kissing my hand, my wrist, my forehead. Thank you. I won't let you regret this, I swear it. I hoped he was right, but a small voice in the back of my mind whispered that some promises were impossible to keep, no matter how much power you had. The days blurred together in a strange rhythm that was both foreign and familiar. Mornings brought breakfast in bed, carefully calibrated meals designed by the nutritionist to support the baby's growth. Afternoons meant doctor's appointments, phone calls with Dante's lawyers about the missing settlement money, and long stretches of enforced rest that left me restless and anxious. But it was the evenings that undid me. Dante came home like clockwork at 7, no matter what crisis was unfolding in his empire. He'd shed his jacket and shoulder holster at the door, a concession to my comfort, though I noticed he never went completely unarmed, and joined me for dinner. We'd eat at the small table by the window, talking about safe things, baby names, nursery colors, whether we should find out the sex officially or wait. We already knew we were having a girl, but he liked to pretend we were having normal conversations, making normal decisions. Like we were a normal couple expecting their first child. We weren't normal. We would never be normal. On the 5th night, reality shattered the illusion. I woke to voices, low, urgent, coming from Dante's office down the hall. The clock read 2:47 a.m. I'd fallen asleep on the couch in the living room, a book about pregnancy forgotten on my chest. Dante must have covered me with a blanket when he came home. I should have stayed put, should have gone back to sleep and pretended I hadn't heard anything. Instead, I found myself moving down the hallway, the marble floor cold against my bare feet. The office door was slightly ajar, light spilling into the darkness. I could hear Dante's voice, speaking in rapid Italian, and another man responding. Marco, I thought, found him in the usual place. He didn't even try to run. Good. Dante's voice was ice. What did he say when you told him why he was being brought in? Started begging. Said it was orders from higher up, that he was just following protocol. Whose orders? A pause. Then, he claims it came from you, boss. Said you told him to cut off all contact, to make sure she couldn't reach you no matter what. The sound that came from Dante was inhuman. Pure rage given voice. Something crashed. Glass shattering. I gave no such order. I said to watch her discreetly, to keep her safe. Not to isolate her. Not to steal from her. Not to let her fucking starve while my child grew inside her. I know, boss. We all know. But Tommaso says... I don't care what Tommaso says. He's a liar and a thief, and he put my family at risk. There's only one response to that. My hand went to my mouth, stifling a gasp. I knew what one response meant in Dante's world. I'd always known, even when I'd been sheltered from it. When? Marco asked quietly. Now, tonight. I want him gone before sunrise, and I want it messy. Send a message to anyone else who thinks they can disobey me when it comes to my family. Consider it done. And the money he skimmed? Recovered and transferred to Sophia's account. 3 million plus interest. It's done. Footsteps approached the door, and I barely had time to press myself against the wall before Marco emerged, his face grim. He saw me, froze for a half-second, then gave me a respectful nod and continued down the hallway. I should have run. Should have returned to my room and buried myself under the covers. Instead, I stepped into the doorway. Dante stood with his back to me, hands braced on his desk, shoulders rigid. His shirt was disheveled, sleeves rolled up, and in the lamplight I could see fresh blood on his knuckles. The room smelled like whiskey and violence. How much did you hear? He asked without turning around. Enough. He straightened slowly, reaching for a glass of amber liquid on the desk. He drained it in one swallow before facing me. In the harsh light, he looked older, harder. This was Don Caruso, not the man who'd held my hand during ultrasounds. You should be sleeping, he said. You're going to kill him. It wasn't a question. Yes. The blunt admission hung between us. Because he stole money? Because he endangered you and our daughter? Because he disobeyed direct orders? Because he lied to you, made you think I didn't want you to contact me, let you struggle alone? His eyes were black in the dim light, fathomless. Because he touched what's mine, and in my world, that has consequences. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold despite the blanket I'd brought with me. This is what you meant, isn't it? When you said bringing me into your world meant knowing the truth, this is the truth. You kill people. When necessary, yes, and you decide what's necessary. That's what being Don means. He moved toward me slowly, like approaching a spooked animal. I told you there would be violence, Sophia. I told you this life was dark. Did you think I meant metaphorically? I don't know what I thought. My voice cracked. Maybe I thought, I don't know, that it would be abstract, distant. Not someone being executed because he failed to do his job properly. He didn't fail to do his job. He actively worked against my interests. He stole from my family. And worse, he isolated you when you needed help most. Dante stopped a few feet away, giving me space. If I let that go unpunished, it sends a message that my family can be hurt without consequence. Every enemy I have would take that as invitation. So you kill him to send a message. I kill him because he earned it. The message is just a bonus. I sank into the chair by the door, my legs suddenly unable to hold me. I knew. Intellectually, I knew what you were. But knowing and seeing are different things. He knelt in front of me, careful not to touch. Do you want to leave? I'll understand if you do. I'll make sure you're provided for, protected. The baby will never want for anything. But I won't force you to stay in a world that terrifies you. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Blood on his knuckles from hitting something or someone. eyes hard with the weight of command, jaw set with the certainty of a man who'd made peace with violence long ago. This was who he was, who he'd always been, and despite everything, despite the horror of what I'd just learned, I didn't want to leave. "I'm scared," I admitted. "You should be. Fear keeps you alert, keeps you safe. I'm scared of you, of what you're capable of." Something flickered in his expression. Pain, maybe, or regret. "I would never hurt you. Never. You and our daughter are sacred to me, Sophia. Everything I do, every order I give, every decision I make, it's all to protect what we're building. By killing people, by eliminating threats, there's a difference. Is there?" I leaned forward, searching his face. "Help me understand, because I want to stay. God help me. I want to believe we can make this work, but I need to understand how you reconcile it. How you can be the man who cries at ultrasounds and the man who orders executions in the same night." He sat back on his heels, considering. When he spoke, his voice was measured, thoughtful. "My father used to say there are two types of men in this world, sheep and wolves. Sheep live hoping the wolves will leave them alone. Wolves survive by being stronger, faster, more ruthless than anything that threatens their pack." He paused. "I'm a wolf, Sophia. I always have been. But being a wolf doesn't mean being mindless or cruel. It means protecting what's yours by any means necessary. It means understanding that sometimes violence is the only language your enemies understand. And Tommaso was an enemy? Tommaso betrayed the family, betrayed you. In my world, there's no greater sin." I thought about the months of hunger, the fear, the loneliness, about standing in that convenience store counting crumpled bills and wondering how I'd feed my baby, about the crushing weight of abandonment I'd felt, thinking Dante had cut me off so completely I couldn't even beg for help. Tommaso had done that, had kept me in poverty and fear while stealing the money meant to support us. "I don't know if I can condone it," I said slowly. "The killing, the violence. But I understand it. Or I'm trying to. That's all I ask. Understanding, not approval." He finally reached out, his clean hand cupping my face. "I'll never ask you to become someone you're not. Never ask you to pull a trigger or give the orders. But I need you to trust that when I do these things, it's not from cruelty or ego. It's from necessity, from the responsibility of keeping our family safe. Our family." The words settled around us like a promise and a prophecy. "What happens now?" I asked. "After Tommaso? Now we move forward. I have the lawyers working on annulling the divorce. Turns out fraud in the settlement agreement gives us grounds. We'll remarry quietly, quickly. I want my ring back on your finger before you start showing significantly." "Remarry." I tested the word. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "You're mine, Sophia. You've always been mine. The divorce was just a piece of paper I used to lie to myself, to pretend I could keep you safe by keeping you away. But I can't. The only way forward is together." I should have protested, should have insisted on more time, more certainty. But sitting there in his office, surrounded by the trappings of his violent world, I felt strangely safe, like I'd finally stopped fighting against the current and accepted where it was taking me. "Okay," I whispered. "We'll do it your way." His smile was fierce, possessive. "Our way. We do it our way now. Partners." He kissed me then, gentle and reverent, like I was something precious he'd thought he'd lost forever. I kissed him back, tasting whiskey and desperation, feeling the careful control he maintained even now. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "Go back to bed," he murmured. "I have things to finish here, but I'll join you soon. In the guest room? Wherever you want me." I stood, his hand sliding from my face. At the door, I paused and looked back. He'd returned to his desk, picking up his phone, already moving to the next crisis. "Dante?" He looked up. "Don't lie to me. Ever. Even if you think it's to protect me. I can handle the truth. I can't handle deception." Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or relief. "Deal. No more lies. No more protection through ignorance. Good." I left him there and returned to the guest room, but I didn't sleep. Instead, I lay awake listening to the city sounds drifting through the windows, wondering what kind of life I was building for our daughter, wondering if love was enough to balance the darkness. 3 days later, I wore Dante's ring again. The ceremony was nothing like our first wedding. No cathedral, no 100 guests, no white dress that cost more than a car. Just a judge in Dante's study, witnessed by Marco and Gabriella, with me in a simple cream dress that accommodated my growing belly. But when Dante slid the platinum band back onto my finger when he promised to love and protect me until death, when he kissed me like I was air and he'd been drowning, it felt more real than any grand ceremony could have. Mrs. Caruso, he murmured against my lips, and this time the name fit like it was made for me. The celebration dinner was small, just family. Gabriella toasted us in Italian, her eyes suspiciously bright. Marco raised his glass with a genuine smile, and Dante kept his hand on my thigh throughout the meal, a constant reminder of possession and protection intertwined. Later, in the master bedroom, our bedroom now, he undressed me with reverent hands, tracing the changes in my body with something like wonder. "You're beautiful," he said, his palm flat against my rounded stomach. "More beautiful than I remembered. I'm getting fat. You're growing our daughter. There's nothing more beautiful than that." He made love to me like I might break, gentle and careful and maddeningly slow. I'd forgotten what it was like to be touched with intention, with desire that wasn't rushed or guilty. His hands mapped every curve, every sensitive spot, relearning my body the way a man studies sacred text. When I came apart beneath him, gasping his name, he swallowed the sound with a kiss that tasted like possession and promise. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, his hand never leaving my stomach. "I felt her move," he said with wonder. "Just now. She kicked. She's been active lately. The doctor says it's a good sign. She's strong. Like her mother." I turned in his arms to face him. "What kind of life are we giving her, Dante? Honestly." He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my shoulder. "A complicated one. A privileged one. A dangerous one." He met my eyes. "But also one filled with family, with protection, with the knowledge that she's valued beyond measure. She'll never wonder if she's wanted. She'll never question whether she's loved, and she'll grow up understanding that power comes with responsibility. That strength must be tempered with wisdom. And the violence? She'll be sheltered from it as much as possible. But when she's old enough, she'll understand the truth about our world, about what it takes to survive in it. I won't lie to her, just like I won't lie to you anymore. What if she wants a different life? What if she wants nothing to do with the family business? Then we support her. Give her the education, the resources to pursue whatever path she chooses. The family is a legacy, not a prison." He paused. "Though I hope she'll understand the responsibility that comes with the name, the people who depend on us, the community we protect." "Community? You're a crime boss, Dante. You're not running a charity." He smiled slightly. "Aren't I? I employ 300 people directly, support 5 times that many through various businesses. I keep the neighborhood safe. My people don't tolerate the kind of violence that plagues other areas. I settle disputes fairly. I protect the vulnerable from predators worse than me." His expression grew serious. "I'm not a saint, Sophia, but I'm not a monster either. I exist in the gray spaces between, doing what needs to be done to maintain order in a world that would be chaos without structure." I wanted to argue, to point out the logical fallacies in his reasoning. But I was too tired, too comfortable in his arms, too seduced by the warmth and safety I felt. "I love you," I said instead. "Even though I probably shouldn't, even though you scare me sometimes. I love you." His arms tightened around me. "I love you more than I have words for. You and our daughter. You're the only purely good things in my life. Everything else is compromise and calculation. But you too? Your grace I don't deserve. Then deserve us. Be the man you are with me all the time, not just in private." "I'll try. I can't promise to be soft. That's not who I am. But I can promise to be fair, to be just, to use the power I have to protect rather than just to punish." It was the best promise I could hope for from a man like him. We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, his hand protective over our daughter, even in unconsciousness. The next morning, I woke to an empty bed and the smell of coffee. A note on Dante's pillow read, "Emergency meeting. Back by noon. Guards are outside if you need anything." I stretched, feeling the pleasant ache of well-used muscles, and smiled despite myself. Whatever complicated, dangerous life we were building, at least we were building it together. The smile faded when I padded into the kitchen and found Gabriella sitting at the island, reading a newspaper and sipping espresso. "Good morning, nipote," she said, using the Italian word for niece. "Sleep well?" I did, thank you. I poured myself decaf coffee, another pregnancy sacrifice, and joined her at the island. "Is everything all right?" Dante mentioned an emergency meeting. "The Moretti family is making noise about territory disputes, nothing that concerns you directly." She folded the newspaper and studied me over her cup. "You look different. Happier." "I am. I think. It's complicated. Love always is. Especially in this family." She set down her cup. "I wanted to speak with you about something important. About your role now that you're Dante's wife again." Tension crept up my spine. "What about it?" "You understand that being married to the Don makes you a target, yes? But it also makes you powerful in your own right. The wives of our family have always held a special position, not involved in the violent aspects of the business, but essential to its social and political structure. I'm not sure I understand. Charity work, social events, building relationships with the wives of politicians, judges, business leaders. You'll be the face of the Caruso family's legitimate interests, the bridge between our world and theirs." She leaned forward. "And you'll be my protégé. I've been handling these responsibilities alone since Dante's mother died. It's time to pass them on." The weight of expectation settled over me like a heavy coat. "That's a lot of responsibility. You're capable of it. I've watched you these past days. You're stronger than you look, smarter than you pretend. You'll learn quickly. And if I don't want to, if I just want to focus on being a mother?" Gabriella's laugh was sharp. "There is no just being a mother in this family, child. Your daughter will be a Caruso. She'll need to understand her place in this world, and you'll need to teach her. That means understanding it yourself first." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Congratulations on the wedding. Pity about the groom's enemies. Would be terrible if something happened before the baby arrives." My blood turned to ice. Gabriella noticed my expression immediately. "What is it?" I showed her the phone with shaking hands. She read it, her face hardening into something carved from marble. "Marco!" she called, and he appeared in the doorway so quickly he must have been listening. "Get Dante, now, and trace this number." "What's happening?" I asked, fear making my voice thin. "Someone's threatening you, testing our defenses." She took my hand, her grip firm and steadying. "This is what I warned you about. This is the reality of being a Caruso. You are now a weapon anyone can try to use against Dante." My other hand went to my stomach, protective. "The baby will be fine. We'll increase security. Dante will hunt down whoever sent this and make an example of them." Her eyes were steel. "But you need to understand, Sophia. This won't be the last threat. There will always be someone trying to get to Dante through you. The question is, are you strong enough to stand firm in the face of it?" I thought about the past months, about surviving alone, about choosing to come back to this world knowing the dangers. "I'm strong enough," I said, and meant it, "but I need to learn, need to understand how to protect myself. Protect her." Gabriella's smile was sharp and approving. "Good. Then your education begins now. First lesson. Never show fear. Even when you're terrified, especially when you're terrified, you show nothing but steel. Because in our world, fear is blood in the water and the sharks will circle." The door burst open, and Dante entered like a storm, his face a mask of cold fury. "Let me see it." I handed him the phone. I watched the muscle in his jaw tick as he read the message, watched his knuckles turn white around the device. "Marco, I want everyone who has this number. I want to know where it was purchased, who activated it, every call and text it's ever made." His voice was deadly calm. "And I want double the security detail on Sophia. No one gets within 100 feet of her without being vetted 6 ways." "Already done, boss. The number's a burner, but we're working on triangulating the location it was sent from." Dante came to me, pulling me against his chest with a fierceness that stole my breath. "Are you all right? Did they say anything else? Call you?" "Just the text. I'm okay. We're okay. You're not okay. You're being threatened." He pulled back to look at me, his eyes wild. "This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. Why I pushed you away. This is what happens when people know you matter to me. Dante, I should never have brought you back. Should have kept you separate, safe." I grabbed his face, forcing him to focus on me. "Stop. Stop blaming yourself. I chose to come back. I chose this life. And I'm not running because some coward sent a threatening text. You don't understand what they're capable of. Then teach me. Show me, but don't you dare try to push me away again. We're past that." I pressed his hand to my stomach. "She needs both of us. United. Strong. Not separated by your fears." Something in him cracked, and he crushed me against him again, his face buried in my hair. "If anything happened to you, if they touched you or our daughter." "They won't. Because you'll stop them. And I'll be smart and careful and listen to your security protocols. We'll handle this together." Gabriella cleared her throat delicately. "Dante, you need to make a statement. Show strength. Let them know that threatening your family was a fatal mistake." He pulled back, his expression shifting from fear to cold calculation. "Call a meeting. All the families. Tonight. It's time they remembered who runs this city." "And Sophia?" Gabriella asked. Dante looked at me, conflict clear in his eyes. "Stays here. Protected. Surrounded by guards." "No," I said firmly. "I go with you." "Absolutely not. These meetings can turn violent. I won't risk. If I'm going to be your wife, truly be your wife in this world, then I need to be seen. Need to show them I'm not afraid, that we're united." I lifted my chin. "You said partnership. This is what that means." Gabriella nodded approvingly. "The girl is right. Hiding her makes you look weak. Bring her. Let them see that the Caruso family stands together." Dante looked between us, outnumbered and clearly unhappy about it. But finally, he nodded. "Fine. But you stay by my side. You don't speak unless I indicate it's safe. And at the first sign of danger, Marco gets you out. Non-negotiable. Deal." He pulled me close one more time, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "You're going to be the death of me, Tesoro. Or the making of you," I countered. His laugh was rough but genuine. "That too." The conference room was located in the back of Dante's flagship restaurant, behind a door marked "Private" that led down a narrow staircase into what had once been wine cellars. Now it served a different purpose, a neutral ground where the 5 families could meet without fear of surveillance or interruption. I'd never been here before. During our first marriage, Dante had kept this part of his life completely separate. Now, I descended those stairs on his arm, wearing a black dress that Gabriella had insisted upon, elegant, expensive, fitted to accommodate my belly, but sophisticated enough to command respect. My hair was pulled back in a sleek twist. Diamond earrings, a wedding gift from Dante, caught the dim light. I looked like what I was, a woman of power and privilege. I felt like an imposter. "Remember," Dante murmured as we reached the bottom of the stairs. "You're not here to negotiate or participate. You're here to be seen, to show them that my family is untouchable, unified, that threatening you means war with me." "I understand." His hand tightened on mine. "If anything happens, Marco will get me out. You've told me 6 times." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. 7 now. The door opened, revealing a long table surrounded by men in expensive suits. I recognized some of them from wedding photos, charity events during my first marriage. The heads of the other major families, their consiglieri, their most trusted captains. 15 men total, all of whom turned to stare as we entered. The room went silent. Dante led me to the head of the table, where 2 chairs waited. He held mine until I sat, then took his own seat, his body angled slightly toward me, protective even in posture. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade, "thank you for coming on short notice. I'm sure you're all wondering why I called this meeting. We heard you got remarried," said Vincent Moretti, head of the family that controlled the docks. He was in his 60s, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, Congratulations are in order, I suppose, though marrying the same woman twice seems excessive. A few chuckles around the table. Dante didn't smile. My personal life isn't why we're here. This morning, my wife received a threatening text message. Someone felt it appropriate to make veiled threats against her and our unborn child. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Several men shifted in their seats. Others exchanged glances. That's unfortunate, said Anthony Russo, younger than the others, ambitious. But surely you don't think anyone at this table. I think, Dante interrupted, his voice dropping to something deadly, that someone in this room either sent that message or knows who did. And I'm here to make something absolutely clear. My family is off limits, completely. Untouchably. Off limits. We've always respected those boundaries, Vincent said carefully. You know that, Dante. We don't target families. We're not animals. Then explain this. Marco stepped forward, placing a tablet on the table. The threatening message was displayed, along with technical data I didn't understand. The number was purchased using an account linked to one of the Moretti dock operations. The message was sent from a cell tower in your territory, Vincent. Vincent's face darkened. That doesn't mean... It means someone in your organization threatened my wife, my pregnant wife, my daughter. Dante's voice was still calm, but I could feel the violence coiled beneath it like a snake ready to strike. Now, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to assume this wasn't sanctioned by you. That someone acted independently, stupidly. So I'm offering you a chance to handle this internally, find who did it, and deliver them to me. You have 48 hours. And if I refuse? Vincent's pride was showing. If I tell you to handle your own security problems? Then I assume you sanctioned the threat, which means you declared war on the Caruso family, and we both know how that ends. The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. I kept my expression neutral, my hands folded in my lap, every muscle screaming at me to run. You can't threaten the entire Moretti family over a text message, Anthony Russo interjected. That's an overreaction, Dante's eyes cut to him. Is it? Tell me, Anthony, if someone threatened your wife, your children, what would you do? Would you consider it an overreaction to protect them? Anthony's jaw tightened. He had 3 children, all young. The point landed. This isn't about a text message, Dante continued, addressing the room. This is about respect, about the lines we don't cross. My wife is not a piece in your games. My daughter is not leverage. They are sacred. And anyone who forgets that will learn exactly how far I'm willing to go to protect what's mine. He stood. And I rose with him automatically. His hand found the small of my back, steady and possessive. 48 hours, Vincent. After that, I start making examples. And I promise you, you won't like how I choose to illustrate my point. We turned to leave, and I felt every eye in the room tracking us. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my chin up, my steps steady. Gabriella's words echoed in my mind. Never show fear. We were halfway up the stairs when I heard Vincent's voice. Dante. Wait. Dante stopped but didn't turn around. Yes. You have my word. If someone in my organization sent that message, I'll find them. And I'll deliver them personally. See that you do. We continued up the stairs and out through the restaurant. The evening crowd was in full swing. Couples at candlelit tables, the sound of laughter and clinking glasses. Normal people living normal lives, oblivious to the violent negotiations happening beneath their feet. The car was waiting outside, Marco at the wheel, 2 additional SUVs full of security flanking us. Dante helped me into the back seat, then slid in beside me. The door closed with a solid thunk, sealing us in. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then I started shaking. Hey! Dante pulled me against him immediately. You're safe. You did perfectly. You were incredible. I thought, when that Anthony guy challenged you, I thought it was going to turn violent. It might have, if you weren't there. But they're not going to start a war in front of a pregnant woman. It's bad optics, even for them. His hand stroked my hair. You gave me leverage just by being present. Reminded them all that this isn't abstract. That my family is real, human. deserving of the protection they demand for their own. Vincent will really find who sent the message? He will. Because if he doesn't, I'll dismantle his organization piece by piece until I find the person myself. And he knows I'm capable of it. I pulled back to look at him. And then what? When you find them? His expression hardened. Then they face the consequences of threatening a Caruso. There's no ambiguity in my world, Sophia. No second chances for something like this. You make an example, or you invite more attempts, more death, more justice. There's a difference. I wasn't sure I agreed, but I was too exhausted to argue. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and drained. Take me home, I said quietly. Please. I just want to go home. His arms tightened around me, already on our way. The next day brought a different kind of terror. Nursery shopping. Gabriella had declared that the empty bedroom next to the master suite needed to be transformed immediately, and she'd taken it upon herself to coordinate the effort, which meant I found myself in the city's most exclusive baby boutique, surrounded by impossibly expensive cribs and designer diaper bags, while Gabriella held court like a general planning a campaign. The crib must be Italian, she was saying to the overwhelmed sales associate. Handcrafted, naturally, and the bedding, nothing synthetic. Only organic cotton with at least an 800 thread count, for a baby, I interjected weakly. Who will spit up on it? Gabriella waved this away. A Caruso baby. There's a difference. I caught Dante's eye across the showroom where he was examining a rocking chair, with the intensity most men reserved for cars. He gave me a sympathetic smile but didn't intervene. Coward. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Did you really think he could protect you? You're already dead. You just don't know it yet. The boutique spun around me. The phone slipped from my nerveless fingers, clattering on the polished floor. Dante was beside me instantly. What? What is it? He picked up the phone, read the message, and his face went absolutely white. Then red. Then settled into something I'd never seen before. Pure, incandescent rage. Marco. The word was a whip crack. Get her to the car. Now. Full lockdown protocol. Dante. Now. Arms surrounded me. Not Dante's, Marco's, and I was being hustled toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Gabriella's sharp voice. Dante's snarled orders into his phone. The boutique erupted into controlled chaos. The car was running, door open. Marco practically lifted me inside, throwing himself in after me. The door slammed. We were moving before I could process what was happening. Where are we going? I managed. Safe house, boss's orders. You'll stay there until the threat is neutralized. What about Dante? He's handling it. Marco. I'm sorry, Mrs. Caruso. Those are my orders. Keep you safe. Nothing else matters. The drive took 40 minutes, winding through the city and into the suburbs. The safe house turned out to be a sprawling estate behind high walls, complete with guard towers and enough security to rival a military installation. Inside, it was surprisingly comfortable. Modern furniture, warm colors, nothing like the sterile safe houses from movies. But it was still a prison, and I was still a prisoner, no matter how gilded the cage. Hours passed. I tried calling Dante, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Same with Gabriella. Marco wouldn't tell me anything beyond "it's being handled." I paced the living room, my hand on my stomach, feeling our daughter move restlessly. She could sense my agitation, the fear I was trying to control. "I'm sorry, baby girl," I whispered. "I'm so sorry this is the world you're being born into." She kicked, hard, as if in response. The door opened and Dante entered like a storm. His white shirt was spattered with blood. Not his own, I noted with sick relief. His knuckles were raw. His eyes were wild. "Are you hurt?" His hands were on me immediately, checking, assessing. "Did anyone approach you? Say anything? The phone. Where's the phone?" "I'm fine. We're fine. Marco got me out." I caught his face in my hands, forcing him to focus. "Breathe. Look at me. We're safe." Some of the wildness faded from his eyes. He pulled me against him with bruising force, his face buried in my hair. I thought, when I saw that message, all I could think was that I'd failed you again. that they'd gotten to you. Who sent it? Moretti's nephew. Ambitious little shit who thought threatening you would force Vincent to back away from the truce, create an opening for him to take over. Dante's voice was muffled against my hair. He was wrong. Where is he now? Gone. Dealt with. Vincent delivered him personally, as promised. Then helped me make sure the message was clear. I pulled back to look at him. You killed him. Yes. Just like that. Just like that. His eyes were hard, unapologetic. He threatened my wife, my daughter. There's no debate, no trial, no second chances for that. There's only one response, and I delivered it. I should have been horrified, should have pulled away, demanded he leave, told him I couldn't live like this. Instead, I felt a dark, primal satisfaction. He'd protected us, removed the threat, done what needed to be done. Okay, I said quietly. He blinked. Okay, you protected your family. I don't like it. I understand, but I understand. Something shifted in his expression. Relief mixed with wonder. You're not afraid of me? I'm terrified of you, but I also trust you. Those things can coexist. I touched his blood-stained shirt carefully. Go clean up. You're scaring the baby with all that blood. His laugh was surprised and genuine. You're incredible. You know that? I'm pragmatic. There's a difference. I pushed him gently toward the bathroom. Go, shower. We'll talk more when you don't look like an extra from a horror movie. He went, but not before kissing me, hard and possessive and desperate. While the shower ran, I sank onto the couch and finally let myself feel the fear I'd been holding back. My hands shook. My breath came in short gasps. The baby kicked anxiously, responding to my distress. This was my life now. Threats and violence and blood on white shirts. Security details and safe houses and watching my husband killed to protect us. I should have run. Should have demanded to leave, to find somewhere safe and normal. But where was safe when you carried a Caruso heir? Where was normal when the man you loved was a Mafia don? Dante emerged from the bathroom in clean clothes, his hair damp, the blood washed away. He came to me immediately, pulling me against his chest. We're leaving the city, he said quietly. For a while, until things settle. I have a property upstate, completely secure, off the grid. You'll be safe there. We both will. What about your business? Marco can handle things, Gabriella too. Right now, nothing matters except keeping you and our daughter safe until she's born. His hand splayed across my stomach. I won't risk either of you. Not for power, not for pride, not for anything. How long? As long as it takes. Months, if necessary. We'll come back when I'm certain every threat has been eliminated, every loose end tied up. He tilted my face up to his. I know it's not what you wanted. I know you're scared. But I'm not giving anyone another chance to hurt you. I thought about the cramped apartment, the loneliness, the fear of those months alone. Then I thought about this, being surrounded by guards, living in hiding, but safe and protected and with Dante by my side. Okay, I said again. We'll go. But Dante? Yes? When we come back, I want this threat eliminated, permanently. I want to be able to raise our daughter without fear, without constantly looking over our shoulder. Can you promise me that? His eyes were dark with determination. I promise. By the time we return, anyone who even thinks about threatening the Caruso family will remember what happened to those who tried. We'll have peace, Sophia. Whatever it costs, we'll have peace. I believed him. And that scared me more than the threats, more than the violence, more than anything else. Because I knew what whatever it costs meant in his world, knew what he was willing to do, what lines he was willing to cross. And God help me, I was willing to let him. We left that night, driving north in a convoy of 3 armored vehicles. The property was 3 hours away, nestled in the mountains where cell service was spotty, and the nearest neighbor was 5 miles away. The house was beautiful, a modern lodge with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a pristine lake, surrounded by forest. Inside, it was warm and comfortable, with a massive stone fireplace and furniture that invited you to sink in and stay a while. It was my father's retreat, Dante explained, as we stood in the living room, watching the sunset paint the lake in shades of gold and crimson. He came here when the city got too heavy. Said it reminded him that there was more to life than the family business. It's beautiful. It's ours. For as long as we need it. He turned me to face him, his hands gentle on my shoulders. I know this isn't the life you imagined. I know I'm asking you to sacrifice your freedom, your independence. But I swear to you, Sophia, I will make it worth it. I will give you and our daughter everything. Safety, security, love, a future without fear. And if you can't, if the threats never stop, if there's always someone wanting to use us against you, his jaw set.
Then I'll eliminate every threat until there's no one left stupid enough to try. I'll burn the whole city down if that's what it takes to keep you safe. The terrifying thing was, I knew he meant it. Knew he was capable of it. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, I said softly. He pulled me close, and we stood there watching the sun disappear behind the mountains, wrapped in each other, and the uncertain promise of peace. The weeks that followed were the strangest of my life. Days blurred together in a peaceful rhythm. Mornings watching mist rise off the lake. Afternoons reading while Dante worked remotely from the den, evenings cooking together in the massive kitchen. It was almost normal, almost like we were a regular couple expecting their first child, preparing for parenthood in peaceful isolation, except for the armed guards patrolling the perimeter, the secure phone lines, the encrypted video conferences where Dante gave orders I tried not to hear. My belly grew. The baby became more active, her movements visible from the outside now. Dante spent hours with his hand on my stomach, talking to her in Italian, telling her stories about her grandfather, about the family she'd be born into. She'll be strong, he said one night as we lay in bed, his hand tracing the curve of my belly, like her mother, beautiful and fierce and unbreakable. She'll be kind, I countered. Compassionate. She'll see the humanity in people, not just their usefulness. She'll be both, the best of us. He kissed my stomach gently, and she'll be loved. So incredibly loved. The baby kicked against his palm, and his smile was pure joy. These moments, quiet, tender, removed from the violence of his world, made me believe we could actually build something good, something lasting. Then Gabriella called. Dante answered his phone, listened for 30 seconds, and his entire body went rigid. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. Longer. I'm coming back. No. Gabriella's voice was loud enough that I could hear it. You stay there. Protect Sophia. Marco and I will handle this. The hell you will. If the Russians are moving, Dante. Gabriella's voice cracked like a whip. Trust your family. Trust me. You built an empire that can function without you. Let it. Your job right now is to keep your wife and daughter safe. Let us do ours. He looked at me, conflict clear in his every line. She's right, I said quietly. You can't protect me and fight a war at the same time. I can't abandon my family. You're not. You're trusting them. There's a difference. I took his hand. Stay. Please. I need you here. She needs you here. The internal struggle played out across his face. Finally, he raised the phone again. Fine, but I want updates every 6 hours. And if things go sideways, if you need me, you'll be the first call, Gabriella promised. Take care of your wife, Nipote. Let us take care of the business. The call ended. Dante stood there, phone in hand, looking lost in a way I'd never seen. This is what it means, he said quietly. Being Don. Everyone depends on you. Everyone needs you. But you can't be everywhere at once. You make choices about who to protect, who to trust with your responsibilities. And you live with the consequences. I went to him, wrapping my arms around him as best I could with my belly between us. You chose us. That's not weakness. That's love. Love that could cost lives or save them. If something happened to you, if you went back and got killed, what would happen to your family then? To your organization? To us? I pulled back to look at him. You're thinking like a soldier. Think like a Don. The strategic move is to protect the heir, ensure the succession. Everything else is secondary. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. When did you become so ruthless? I learned from the best. He kissed me then, deep and desperate,
like I was the only thing anchoring him to sanity. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. If anything happens to them, to Gabriella or Marco or any of the family, it won't. They're strong, capable. You trained them well. I took his hand and placed it on my stomach. Right now, this is where you need to be. This is your war. Protecting us, preparing for her arrival. Everything else is just noise. The baby kicked, as if agreeing with me. Dante laughed, wet and shaky. Outnumbered by the Caruso women already. I don't stand a chance. No, I agreed, smiling. You really don't. 3 weeks later, I woke to a contraction that stole my breath. It was too early. I was only 37 weeks, still 3 weeks from my due date, but my body had other plans, and as another wave of pain rolled through me, I knew with absolute certainty that our daughter was coming. Dante, I gasped, gripping his arm. Dante, wake up. He was alert immediately, years of living with danger making him a light sleeper. What? What's wrong? The baby. She's coming. Now. I'd never seen him move so fast. Within seconds, he was on the phone with Dr. Chen, relaying my symptoms. Within minutes, the house was organized chaos. Guards preparing the helicopter that would take us to the private hospital an hour away. Dr. Chen en route with a full medical team. Gabriella calling with instructions I could barely hear over my own labored breathing. How far apart are the contractions? Dante asked, his hand steady on my back even though his face was pale. 5 minutes. Maybe less. Another wave hit, and I doubled over, gripping the bedpost. Oh God, this is really happening. You're doing great. Just breathe. In through your nose, out through your mouth. That's it, Tesoro. Just like that. The pain receded enough for me to look at him. You're terrified. Absolutely fucking terrified, he admitted. But we're doing this together, just like everything else. The helicopter ride was a blur of pain, and Dante's voice, steady and calm, talking me through each contraction. The pilot flew like he was being chased, and maybe he was. Dante had probably threatened him with death if anything happened to us. The hospital was ready when we arrived. Dr. Chen met us on the roof, already in scrubs, her team surrounding us like a protective wall. Everything's going to be fine, she assured us, as I was transferred to a gurney. The baby's vitals are strong. You're doing great, Sophia. Just keep breathing. The labor room was private, luxurious in the way only Dante's money could make a hospital suite. But I barely noticed the expensive equipment or the artwork on the walls. All I could focus on was the pain that came in relentless waves, each one stronger than the last. Dante never left my side. He held my hand through every contraction. Let me squeeze until I thought I'd break his fingers, wiped my forehead with cool cloths, and murmured encouragement in English and Italian. You're the strongest person I know, he said during a brief respite between contractions. You survived alone. You survived my stupidity. You survived threats and violence in a world you never asked to be part of. This you can do in your sleep. This hurts more, I gasped out, trying to laugh. I know. I'm sorry. If I could take the pain for you, you'd still find a way to make it about you, I said, and he laughed, surprised and genuine. Another contraction hit, worse than the others. I screamed, past caring about dignity or control. That's it, Dr. Chen said from between my legs. That's the one. Sophia, you're ready to push. On the next contraction, I need you to bear down. Can you do that? I nodded, too exhausted to speak. You've got this, Dante said, his lips against my temple. Our daughter is almost here. Just a little more, Tesoro. Just a little more. The next contraction built like a tidal wave. I pushed with everything I had, feeling like I was being torn apart. Good. Again, she's crowning. Another push. Another scream. Dante's voice in my ear, constant and grounding. One more, Sophia. One more big push. I gathered every ounce of strength I had left and pushed. And then, a cry. High and indignant, and absolutely perfect. It's a girl, Dr. Chen announced, lifting a tiny, squirming bundle. You have a daughter. Time stopped. The world narrowed to that sound. Our daughter's first cry, announcing herself to the world with all the fury of a Caruso. Oh my God, I breathed. Oh my God, Dante, she's here. He was crying, not trying to hide it, just letting the tears fall as Dr. Chen placed our daughter on my chest. She was perfect, tiny and red-faced and screaming her lungs out, but absolutely perfect. Hi, baby girl, I whispered, touching her impossibly soft cheek. Hi, sweet girl. We've been waiting for you. Dante's hand covered mine, both of us cradling our daughter. She's beautiful. She's perfect. His voice broke. She's ours. Our daughter opened her eyes, dark like Dante's, and seemed to look right at us. The crying stopped, replaced by curious silence as she studied her parents. Isabella, Dante said softly, after my mother, if you agree. I looked at our daughter, at Isabella, and nodded. It's perfect. She's perfect. Dr. Chen worked efficiently, delivering the placenta, stitching what needed to be stitched, but I barely noticed. All my attention was on Isabella, on memorizing every detail of her face, on the weight of her in my arms. 6 pounds, 8 ounces, a nurse announced. 19 inches long, all fingers and toes accounted for. Perfectly healthy. Dante leaned down and pressed a kiss to Isabella's forehead, then to mine. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for her. Thank you for staying. Thank you for giving me this. We made her together, I said, smiling through my tears. This is ours, Dante. Our family. Our future. The first night was chaos. Isabella had strong opinions about sleep, specifically, that it was something other people did. She wanted to eat, to be held, to stare at the world with those serious dark eyes that already looked too much like her father's. Dante was a revelation. He changed diapers with the same focused intensity he brought to business negotiations. He paced the room at 3 a.m., Isabella against his shoulder, singing Italian lullabies his mother had sung to him. He watched her sleep with an expression of such pure wonder that it made my chest ache. I never thought I'd have this, he confessed during one late-night feeding session. We were both exhausted, Isabella nursing contentedly while Dante sat beside us. A family. Real family, not just the organization. I thought men like me didn't get happy endings. Maybe you're not the man you thought you were. He considered this, his finger tracing Isabella's tiny hand. Or maybe you changed who I am, made me better, made me want to be better. You did that yourself. I just gave you a reason. Isabella finished eating and immediately spit up on my shoulder. Dante laughed, full and genuine, and grabbed a burp cloth. Welcome to parenthood, he said, wiping my shoulder, where everything is covered in bodily fluids and you're too tired to care. Romantic. Honest. He took Isabella, settling her against his chest. She made a small, contented sound and promptly fell asleep, but also perfect. Even the disgusting parts are perfect because they're ours. I watched him with our daughter, this powerful man brought to his knees by 6 pounds of human, and felt something settle in my chest. This was right. Despite everything, the violence, the danger, the complicated world we inhabited. This was exactly right. We stayed at the hospital for 2 days, long enough for Dr. Chen to be satisfied that both Isabella and I were healthy. Then Dante transported us back to the mountain house in the same helicopter, now outfitted with a medical team and enough baby supplies to stock a nursery store. Gabriella was waiting when we arrived, tears streaming down her usually composed face as she took in her grandniece. She looks like your father, she told Dante, touching Isabella's cheek with gentle reverence. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. She's going to be trouble. Good, Dante said, smiling. The Caruso women should be trouble. Speaking of trouble, Gabriella said, her tone shifting to business. The Russian situation is resolved. The Morettis are back in line. And Vincent personally sent a gift for Isabella, a college fund, already established. His way of showing respect and gratitude for how you handled his nephew's indiscretion. How generous of him, Dante said dryly. It is, actually. He's put $3 million into it. Gabriella smiled slightly. Word has spread that threatening a Caruso child is a death sentence. Literally, we haven't had a single incident in 3 weeks. You created peace through fear, Nipote. just like your father." Dante's expression darkened. "I'm not my father. No. You're better, because you have something he never did. A family worth protecting, and the wisdom to know when to step back from the front lines." She looked at me holding Isabella. "She's made you stronger. Both of them have. Don't forget that." After Gabriella left, Dante and I settled into our new reality. Days were consumed with feedings and diaper changes and the 1,000 small crises that came with a newborn. Nights were broken by Isabella's needs, by her cries that sent both of us stumbling from bed. It was exhausting. It was overwhelming. It was also the happiest I'd ever been. 6 weeks after Isabella's birth, Dante woke me before dawn. "Get dressed," he said, already showering. "Something nice but comfortable. Dante, it's 5 a.m. Isabella will be awake soon. Gabriella is here. She's watching Isabella for the day." I sat up, suddenly alert. "Why? What's happening?" He emerged from the bathroom, already dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt. "We're going home, back to the city. There's something I need to show you." "Is it safe?" "Perfectly safe, I promise." The drive took 3 hours, Isabella sleeping peacefully in Gabriella's arms while we left. I pressed my face against the window, watching the mountains give way to suburbs, then to the familiar skyline of the city. But Dante didn't take me to the penthouse. Instead, we drove to a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Residential, tree-lined, with elegant townhouses that spoke of old money and quiet privilege. We stopped in front of a beautiful brownstone with a small garden and flower boxes in the windows. "What is this?" I asked. "Our new home." He helped me out of the car, leading me up the front steps. "I bought it last month, had it completely renovated." He unlocked the door and led me inside. The interior was stunning, high ceilings, original woodwork, modern updates that respected the building's character. But what struck me was how different it was from the penthouse. This felt like a home, not a showpiece. Warm rugs on hardwood floors, comfortable furniture that invited you to sit, art that was beautiful rather than expensive. "There's a nursery upstairs," Dante said, watching my reaction carefully. "Already set up, and a master bedroom with an attached office so I can work from home more. The security is state-of-the-art but hidden. No visible guards, no obvious cameras. To the outside world, we're just another wealthy family. Dante, this is too much? Not enough? Tell me honestly." "Perfect," I whispered. "It's absolutely perfect." He pulled me close, relief evident in every line of his body. "I wanted you to have a real home, not a fortress, not a penthouse that felt like a hotel, a place where Isabella can grow up, where we can be a family, where you can invite friends without worrying about them seeing armed guards." "What about your work? The family business?" "I'm stepping back." He said it calmly, but I could see the weight of the decision in his eyes. "Not leaving completely, but Marco is taking over day-to-day operations. I'll be a consigliere, an advisor, available when needed, but not running everything personally." I stared at him. "You're giving up being Don? I'm choosing my family over my empire. There's a difference." His hand cupped my face. "These past weeks with you and Isabella, I've never been happier. Never felt more complete. And I realized that all the power in the world means nothing if I'm not there to watch my daughter grow up. If I'm not there for you, your family will think you're weak. Let them. The ones who matter, Gabriella, Marco, they understand. They support it. And the ones who don't?" He shrugged. "They'll learn that retired or not, you don't cross a Caruso, especially not one protecting his family." I thought about the man who'd divorced me to keep me safe, the man who'd killed to protect us, the man who'd built an empire through ruthlessness and will. And now here he was, choosing to step away from all of it, for us. "Are you sure?" I asked. "This is everything you've worked for, everything you built." "No. What I built is standing right here in front of me." His hand moved to my stomach, then up to my heart. "This is my empire now, you and Isabella. Everything else is just business." I kissed him, pouring everything I felt into it, gratitude and love and the fierce joy of knowing he'd chosen us above all else. When we broke apart, he smiled. "There's one more thing. Come with me." He led me to a room at the back of the house. A study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk. "This is yours," he said. "Your space." I thought, maybe you'd want to finish your degree. Or start the nonprofit you used to talk about. Whatever you want to do, you have the resources now, the freedom. I'd dropped out of college to marry him, had abandoned my dreams of working in social services. I'd thought those dreams were dead, sacrificed to being Mrs. Caruso. "You remembered," I said, my voice thick. "I remember everything about you. Every dream, every hope, every plan you had before I derailed your life." He took my hands. "I can't give you back the time we lost, but I can give you the future, whatever you want it to be." I looked around the study, at the empty shelves waiting to be filled, the desk where I could work, the window overlooking the garden where Isabella could play. This was a life, a real life, not just survival or protection or existing in the shadow of Dante's world. This was the partnership he'd promised. The future we'd both choose. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank me by being happy. That's all I want. You happy? Isabella safe? Us together. Everything else is negotiable." We moved into the brownstone 2 weeks later. Isabella's nursery was painted a soft lavender, with hand-painted clouds on the ceiling and a rocking chair by the window where I could feed her while watching the street below. Dante set up his office and immediately started limiting his hours. He was home for dinner every night. He helped with the 3 a.m. feedings. He changed diapers without complaint and learned to fold the impossible origami of baby clothes. He was present in a way he'd never been during our first marriage, not the distant Don managing an empire, but a father completely devoted to his daughter. A husband rebuilding what we'd broken. One evening, 3 months after we'd moved in, I found him in Isabella's room. She was 6 months old now, starting to sit up on her own, babbling in a language only she understood. Dante sat beside her crib, just watching her sleep with an expression of such pure contentment that it made my eyes burn. "She smiled at me today," he said, without turning around. A real smile, not just gas. She looked right at me and smiled like I was the best thing she'd ever seen. I moved to stand behind him, my hands on his shoulders. "You are. To both of us." He reached up, covering my hand with his. "I keep thinking about the man I was. The choices I made. Divorcing you to keep you safe, pushing you away. If things had gone differently, if Marco hadn't called that night, if I hadn't found you. But you did. That's what matters. I almost lost you. Lost her. Because I thought I knew what was best." He turned to look at me, his eyes bright. "I won't make that mistake again. From now on, we decide together. Partners in everything." "Partners," I agreed. Isabella stirred, making small sounds of waking. Dante was on his feet immediately, lifting her with practiced ease. She blinked at him with those serious dark eyes, then broke into a gummy smile. "There's my girl," he murmured, kissing her forehead. "Did you have good dreams? Were you plotting world domination already?" I watched them together, this powerful man reduced to baby talk and silly faces, and felt something settle in my chest. This was what I'd wanted all along. Not the penthouse or the money or the protection. This, family, love. Home. "I have an idea," I said suddenly. Dante looked up from making Isabella laugh. "What kind of idea?" "The nonprofit. I want to focus it on helping pregnant women in crisis, the ones who slip through the cracks, who end up like I was, alone, struggling, not knowing where to turn." His expression softened. "That's perfect. What do you need?" "Funding, office space, maybe some connections to hospitals, clinics." I paused. "And I want to do it legitimately. No family favors, no leveraging your name. This needs to be separate from that world." "Agreed. I'll have my lawyer set up the foundation tomorrow." "But Sophia?" He waited until I met his eyes. "You can use my name when it helps. You're a Caruso. That comes with advantages. Use them for good." It took 6 months to get the foundation operational. We called it Isabella's Hope, partly because our daughter had inspired it, partly because hope was what these women needed most. We helped dozens of women that first year, provided prenatal care, housing assistance, job training, connected them with resources they didn't know existed, gave them the support I desperately needed during those dark months alone. And slowly, I began to understand what Gabriella had meant about being a Caruso wife. The power wasn't just about fear or violence. It was about resources, connections, the ability to make things happen, to help people who had no other options. I used Dante's name when it opened doors, used his connections when they helped secure funding, used the family's reputation when it convinced landlords to rent to struggling mothers. I took the dark legacy of his world and bent it toward light. Isabella's first birthday fell on a perfect spring day. We held the party in the brownstones' garden, kept intimate, just Gabriella, Marco, a few trusted friends, and Dr. Chen with her family. Isabella sat in her high chair, chocolate cake smeared across her face, laughing as Dante tried to wipe her clean and only managed to spread the mess further. "You're making it worse," I said, laughing. "I'm trying. She keeps moving." "Amateur," Gabriella said, taking over with practiced efficiency. Within seconds, Isabella was clean and happy, reaching for her grandmother with chocolate sticky hands. Marco approached me, holding a glass of wine I still couldn't drink. I was 3 months pregnant with our second child, a fact we'd only just confirmed. "She's beautiful," he said, nodding toward Isabella. "Strong, like her parents. Thank you, Marco. For everything. For that night. For getting me to safety. Just doing my job, Mrs. Caruso. No, you saved my life. Both our lives. That's more than a job." He smiled slightly. "Then I'm honored to have done it. You've been good for the boss. Better than good. You've given him something to live for beyond the business. Made him remember he's human." I looked at Dante, who was now being used as a jungle gym by his delighted daughter, and felt my heart swell. He did that himself. I just gave him a reason. As the sun set and the party wound down, Dante and I sat on the garden bench, Isabella drowsing in his arms. The warm evening air carried the scent of the roses I'd planted, mixed with the distant sounds of the city we'd once fled. "Happy?" Dante asked softly. "Impossibly happy." I leaned my head on his shoulder. Sometimes I think about where we were a year and a half ago, how broken everything seemed, how certain I was that we'd never find our way back to each other. And now? Now I can't imagine any other life. Even with all the complications, all the darkness we've survived, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. He kissed the top of my head. "I love you, Sofia Caruso, more than I have words for. You and Isabella and..." His hand moved to my still flat stomach. "This little one. You're my world. My everything. We love you too," I whispered. Isabella stirred, mumbling something that might have been Dada, and Dante's expression melted into pure joy. This was our happy ending, not perfect. Nothing about our life would ever be simple or safe or completely free from the shadow of Dante's past. But it was ours, built from broken pieces, forged in fire, and stronger for having survived. The Caruso Empire continued, but it no longer defined us. We'd created something new, a family built on truth instead of secrets, partnership instead of protection through distance, love that was strong enough to withstand the darkness. And as I sat there in our garden, surrounded by the people we loved, watching our daughter sleep peacefully in her father's arms, I knew with absolute certainty that we'd made the right choice, all of them. Every difficult decision, every moment of fear, every sacrifice had led us here. To this perfect evening, this perfect family, this perfect peace. We were home. Finally, truly, completely home.